present to you the podcast Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches. We discuss a range of topics that include addictions, religious abuse, and recovery. This live platform offers meaningful questions and answers, a counseling continuum, and valuable feedback from professionals and others who have been through the process and are healed, forgiven, and reconciled. If they can achieve this, so can you. This program can be heard on iHeart, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Pandora, Apple Podcasts, and others.
He says live.
Make no mistake, this podcast sustains and implements three things: healing, forgiveness, and reconciliation within the Church of God. Thanks for listening.
Good day, friends. Excited about being here tonight. We've been out of town for the past couple of weeks, but I'm glad to be back tonight. Good to see you all very, very much. This Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches podcast. We present to you a live platform. We discuss a range of topics that include different types of addictions, religious abuse, and recovery. This platform offers a counseling continuum and, of course, live call-in discussion on different topics. So again, we're glad to see you. It's been a couple of weeks. We've been traveling, but we're glad to be back with you. You know, we're blessed to have a good support staff. We've had probably about 16 ministers and pastors, but those who work with us continually is a blessing. We have Kenneth Probes. He's a PK son. He was a pilot in Alaska. He's been saved just about 70 plus years. And he's in the Joplin, Missouri area. He's about 80 plus years. We're glad to have him. Sister Cavin, Stella Cavin, been saved 70 years. She's a mom of 8, 2 sons that are pastors. One nephew's a minister. Another minister, her nephew, is also a pastor. Glad to have her as our guest tonight. Thank God for that. Of course, our director here, Tennille McLeod. She's our editor for the Arise magazine. And again, she's our director here. And my name is Moon, licensed counselor, founder of Antioch Youth Center, retired. So again, glad to have you here. Friends, this platform, we discuss a lot of different topics that are quite sensitive. We have some coming in the future about the marriage issue, divine healing and all that. So they're kind of sensitive. But again, the opinions and goals don't always agree with the staff people here. But we do want to discuss these things. We elicit certain divisions and strife, want to do all we can to reduce that, to produce unity in God's church. So you need to listen sometime with discretion, because some things can be sensitive. But make no mistake, we've been doing this now about 1.5 years almost, and our main focus are 3 things: healing, forgiveness, reconciliation in the Church of God. So join us in being a minister of reconciliation. You know, friends, a side note, I was looking at podcasts and how they're growing globally. 2023, there was 460 million people that, that got on podcasts. 460 million. The market generates 500 million a year, and there's 144 million that watch here in America on a monthly basis. So 36 million watch each week different podcasts around the country. So we're just happy to be a part of this for a focus to reach people. That's where it's going now, to podcast. We can be heard on Amazon, Google. In fact, we were Google number 1 and 2 last month. We can be heard on Buzzsprout, Poddash, Podchaser, Amazon Music, Pandora in Review, Apple Face, SoundCloud, Facebook, and of course, YouTube. I was home a couple of weeks ago, and Jasmine bought and Mark bought an Alexa, and I pulled up Alexa, and sure enough, we can hear our podcast on Alexa. So we're excited about the expansion. I got a phone call from a fella. He wants to do a network of Wounded Hearts, so we're praying about that. So we'll see what God has for us. But tonight, I want to introduce our special guest. Amen. She's here with us, Sister Stella Cavin. She's been saved 70 plus years. She was a wife, a mom, a grandmother, mother of, I think, 8 at least. 5th generation Church of God. She has two sons that are pastors, nephew a pastor, nephew that also ministers. Most exciting part, she works with us on Wounded Hearts. And tonight when she's here as a guest, you don't have to ask questions that are only on topic. Sister Kevin likes her questions on a live basis. We usually give questions to our platform people weeks ahead of time. She doesn't do that. So if you want to ask a question off topic, feel free tonight. You have that option to do that. So again, we're glad she's. Let's give her a hand tonight because I'm happy she's here and glad she's here.
Amen.
If you have questions for her, you want to call her, you can simply call this number, the office number, and that's 478 283 9093. 478 283 9093. You can join us by texting us tonight at 1 866 538 3664. 1 866 538 3664. You can go to YouTube and type in Church of God in Macon, Georgia. You'll see the live broadcast there, the live banner there. Church of God in Macon, Georgia, in YouTube. Our counseling number again is 478 283 9093. 478 283 9093. We have a Wounded Hearts email also, and that's REEEEECHONE at AOL.com. Again, that Wounded Hearts email is REEEEECHONE at AOL.com. All right. So if you have questions, friends, get them in early because we have a chance to really do a deep dive in some of these discussions. Uh, to our director, do we have that clip on those the old church?
Yes, we do. Here they go.
Thank you, friends. When I was a wee fella, this was our church years ago, and we had young people. Look at there. I mean, just wall to wall young people. Look at there, just choir. My dad was a young folks choir director back then. And just young people everywhere. There were hundreds of us, and just it was such exciting. I've got a booklet, and we'd have 600 on Sundays. Again, we have the two buses there, young people everywhere, and it's just so beautiful to see that. But today, I can hardly name you 10 or 12 that are still saved from that group. Look at that, just so many of them there. So, dear one, that's what we're talking about. How can we? Well, our question, Sister Cavin, what steps can we take to keep our young people in church? What can we do to keep our young people in church?
One thing I want to correct, I was married 70 plus years and I was saved 60 plus years.
Okay.
I want to correct that. But I think the main thing is to get them to get an experience of salvation like they should. That people don't, young people don't realize the importance of getting saved. That's good. Your sins are forgiven. But that sanctification is it.
True.
Because it
Yes.
causes you to give up the world totally, where it no longer has an effect on you at all. And that's what a lot of people don't. They kind of stay in the world and save and say they're saved too, but you can't do the both. You have to totally commit your life to God in order to live a life that is pleasing in His sight. And I know when I got saved, I know I knew I didn't want, I didn't want to dance anymore. I didn't want to do any of those things. But as time went on, I realized that it's something more than that. You're going to have to totally be in God's corner. You cannot be a part of the world, because if you do, eventually the devil is going to find something. He said, when the devil comes, he can find nothing in me. In other words,
True.
he can't come along with dress code or come along with friends or everything. We have to give up friends. There were friends I had that I
True.
loved
That's
very
true.
much. I can
True.
no
Yeah.
longer, God would show me, He said, the things they're doing, you can't be a part of them. And so that's how it started out. And as the time went on, God had to bring me to a point where nothing mattered but Him. And
So, Kevin,
with that,
please go ahead.
you can
Mhm.
stay safe.
You and I discussed this last week about God saves and sanctifies us, but we can go deeper in our experience in being sanctified. We learn things. He shows things about ourselves, attitudes, whatever. We can grow in that area, can't we, as we go on?
Absolutely, absolutely. See, he can work with us as long as
Right.
we're partially, not totally committed. We kind of like to have our own way. We like to do it
True. It's
what we
true.
want. We don't
It's
may not.
true.
Somebody does something, and we don't particularly like it, and then we come to church, and somebody's doing something that that bothers us. All those things bothers the us that are going on. But when you reach a point in sanctification, even if it bothers you, you come home and you pray, God, give me the grace. And the grace is there, and the grace is there for them too, but they don't really want it. They kind of
Mm.
enjoy living in the flesh rather than living in the spirit.
This is why we have our older saints on, because they've been through these things. Sister Cavin made a point that once you're sanctified, God can deal with you in a more deeper way, and that's so important. Do we have any questions from our listeners?
We do. Mr. 313 asked Sister Cavin, were you married first or saved first?
Married first.
Thank
I
I
you.
was
have a question. How old
married.
were you when you were
I was
married?
married at 19, but I turned 20 that year. And so when I got saved, I was 28.
Okay. And I'm sure, did your husband ever get saved?
He never did. He told me in the earliest part of my salvation, I was going to become a teacher. In fact, that is what led me into salvation because of the fact Socrates, I was reading that, and Socrates was saying that he was willing to die for whatever he believed in. And God talked to me and said, now Socrates said that, but what about you? You've been brought up in the church. These are not the exact words, but he worked with me. So from then on, I began to seek God as, in a different light, actually become aware of the fact that of my lost condition. I need to do something about it. So I had a brother-in-law, William Kemp, who was very committed. And so he would meet me and talk to me about salvation, talk to me about the Bible and all that. And eventually it led me to, my mother invited me to church on one Sunday. And so I, I had all kind of distractions by being wanting to dress just right and all that. But anyway, when I came, there was no message. There was the person preached the message, but it didn't affect me at all. No song, no singing, no nothing. When he finished preaching, I got up and walked up to the altar and got saved. And so they prayed for
Praise
me,
the
but
Lord.
they asked me
Praise
was
the
I
Lord.
satisfied. And I didn't even know how to do this. Just because you're in the church of God does not, or brought up in the church, does not make you so
That's so
you know
true.
what's going on.
That's the truth.
It takes
That
God to lead
that's
you.
true. That's
And
true.
I
That's
did
true.
not feel
Father
satisfied.
dear.
And they prayed
Amen.
again. So when I went to church, when I went to
Lord help us.
work the next day, the first thing I did, I I was the youngest there, and so this girl was asking me. She said, "Come on, they want to see you do the cha cha." And so I sat there because that meant I had to take a stand. So I came back. I sat there, and after a while, I said, "I can't dance anymore." I said, "I not in these words, but." I said, I'm saved now. So I said, I don't dance anymore. And so she went on to say all about, yeah, I know I had church. We were in that church. And I mean, we know about the church and all that. And whatever she said, but it didn't matter. I was not going to do it. So I was tried the very first day.
Any questions from
And
our listeners?
Yes, Mr. 313 asked, did you getting saved have any effect on your marriage?
Good
absolutely,
question.
it did because
Really?
we had gone everywhere together. We had, in fact, just before I got saved, we would go out and I would drink. Just I hate to even say it, but I did drink just sociably sometimes, but only New Year's. That was the only day. And so I was there and I was watching all of them on the floor dancing and doing that. And I just took my drink and poured it down the thing. I couldn't do it. I said, this just it's nonsense. It doesn't it's foolish looking at these people. And it wasn't long after that. Yeah, I think it was in February or whatever when I got saved.
Mm.
Did he what was his reaction? He was used to you looking
Yeah,
the way you look, and you are,
absolutely.
but you were beautiful. You were beautiful. I've got
Yeah. So
pictures.
Yeah, it
And
was very difficult.
you were
Very
beautiful.
difficult.
So how did he react to that?
Well, he was the one when I was so disappointed about not being able to get back in college, and he told me, he said, he said, you go ahead and with what you do, stay safe, and I'm gonna join you one day. That's what he said.
Oh, wow.
And
Oh,
so I did at that time. So I did not ever, turn after that. I did not turn back. That was another thing because that was something I really wanted to do. I really wanted to finish my education. So, but God blocked it, and so that was it. And then he moved away, and when he
right.
moved away, then here in Columbus, I certainly didn't want to move here.
Mhm.
And my mother said, uh, "Stella, you can't stay here. You have to go live with your husband." So I had to pack up and go.
Sister Kevin, how can we draw back those young folks who have backslid? And let me say this: if you're a young person tonight listening in, I want you to chime in. Tell us your experience. If you left the church, if you're bitter, whatever the situation is, this is your platform to get some support and some dialogue. So, Sister Kevin, those left the church, young people, what can we do to draw them back, or can we?
Only God. I mean, because that's who you left. Regardless of what you say, you can say, because
True.
even in my experience, I was just, that God was taking me over some of my experiences and some of the things that people said to me that really hurt and anything. But
Hmm.
God was so good to me in that when they said something to me, sometimes I would go to my pastor and tell him, and he would say, "Well, why didn't you come to me?" I said, "Because I thought, I was wondering if I haven't done the same thing, and I'm just reaping what I've done. So I didn't take
Mm,
the attitude of that I'm any better than they are, that perhaps I have done the same thing to someone else. And so I'd be coming to him. I said, I'm not coming to you for that. And even with situations with my husband, when things would come up and they said, "What's your husband?" And I said, "I didn't come up here to the altar for my husband. I came up here for me. I want my reaction to
Amen.
be such
Amen.
amen.
that
Amen.
God will be
Amen.
pleased with what I do. I'm not interested in what he does, but I'm very
Amen.
interested if I don't do the right thing." So
True.
that's the attitude that we have to take, is that I mean, who are we when Christ did all he did for her? Who am
True.
I? Is
So
somebody,
true.
Amen.
and that
Amen.
Linda tendon wound or whatever, and all she went through, and others that can come that have stood the day. Who am I because someone said something to me or did something to me that I would leave God? I mean, he's all to me. And as he said, when I have to
True.
love him with all my heart, soul, mind, strength, if I love him like that, I'm not going to leave him. Where am I going to go? And that's what
True.
happened. The devil was pressing me about, I never drank in bars. We would go and I would get maybe lemonade or something like that. But anyway, when the devil was pressing me, you remember you used to be out there and all that. And so I was on my way home from church one night, and there was this little bar, and I would go see hear these different singers and all that, Sam Cooke and all that. I like to hear them. And so I looked in there and I said, "Oh no, I'll never go back to that." I mean,
Mm,
God
Mhm.
just showed me how. No, 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 no. I was done,
mm.
and that's how you have to be. You have to be finished with it. That's all.
And that's so
Nothing you can
true.
bring to tempt you to want you to go back to
It's
what you
so
once had.
true. Very
No.
true.
Mm-mm.
Amen to that.
Director, any questions for you?
Not at the moment, no, sir.
Mm.
So, Sister Kevin, many times people let situations and words, we let them wound us too much, don't we? We
Absolutely,
maybe
absolutely.
maybe we're too thin-skinned. Why is that?
Right, because of how we feel about ourselves. And
Okay,
not
all right.
really, if you're able to, if you really look into it, how what God forgave you for, I don't care if you got saved at 6 years old, you needed salvation, and that he even
Amen.
took time to for you as young as you were to get you that way. So you don't deserve it. We don't deserve anything. We came here with sin, and if we continued, no
That's
telling
true.
what we would have turned out to be. So
That's true.
it's how we feel about ourselves, and the very fact, and like I say, and if you don't think that much of yourself, just like with my, God would show me, well, maybe something you said or maybe something you did, or that would come to my
Hmm.
mind. I said, so I
Hmm.
could be guilty of hurting someone and not even realizing that I did. So
True.
why should I hold them? Why can't I treat them right?
Any questions from our listeners?
I do have a question from Mr. 313, but before I ask her question, I did have a question of my own. Do you
Please.
find that in this generation, that we're more sensitive than in past times, like certain things or certain things we do, even as church people or church going individuals? Do you find that this generation is a lot more sensitive than we were in the past?
I feel this generation is too much involved in self, how I look, how I
Right.
am, wanting to
Right.
be greater than other people. The
Lord help us.
competition is great. They want to be somebody. They want people to look up to them. They want to, and see, you can't. That's not humility. Humility
No.
is not trying to be above people, and you can't really enjoy other people be having successes
That's
because of the
true.
fact
That's
if
true.
you can't make it,
That's
then you
true.
want to pull them down. You want to say something that will
True.
cause people not to like them like they once did. So
Right.
it's too much self. What I want, and it's got to be my way. And that's a prayer I pray all the time. God, make me easily entreated. Now, I don't want it to
Mhm.
be, I've got to be this and I've got to be that and I've got to run this. And that's another thing, people are control freaks. They want to control
Mm.
you. I mean, you
Lord
you don't
bless.
want to go
Lord
along
bless.
with them, then they want to make you look bad. So those are the things that this generation from the '60s or whatever that has brought on. When they're deliberation, they think when actually they're really in greater bondage than they have been ever
Wow.
before.
Wow.
Lord help
Interesting.
us. Yes,
Interesting.
ma'am.
Well, Mr. 313 asks, Sister Cavin, was it hard raising your children and staying saved with an unsaved companion?
Good question.
Very good.
Yes, there were difficulties because he wanted one thing and I wanted another. But one thing I established with my children from early age, and it just so happened that when I got saved, they were not very old. So, in fact, most of them that came under me, the six of them, when only came when I was saved. The other two were
Oh,
when I wasn't saved, and so my mother was there around her more. But anyway, I established one thing: if you come to me and and I tell you you can't do anything, then if you go to your father and he tells you that you can, and I'm going to whip you because you are trying to bring division between us.
division in the home. Yeah.
Mm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
right. So if he said if he made the law at first, then I gave him the same respect. I would not do anything. But if you came to me, then I was going to get you. So and then they
Mm.
knew if they go to him for something that they know they're not supposed to do, then they cared enough for me. They didn't want to be at odds with me really, but on the other hand, so they were torn. So that really helped a great deal. And then my husband, Sister Butler, which was a great in our family, he was kind of afraid of her. She had power that he knew she had, and
Mm.
so when she so then when something come up that he knew was not what it ought to be. And the children asked, then he said, well, you let him do so and so. I said, I'm not. And I mean, at one time, the pressure was so great. I went down in the basement, put my head down, and I just cried out to God because he was saying, you
Mm-hmm.
do it. And his niece was there, and she was looking at me, why can't this person do this? Why can't she do so and so? And I said, no, I'm not. I'm not going to give them the thing. If you want to do it, that's it. And the same way with Daryl when I was trusting him for his body. I said, if you want to go stay in the hospital for the weekend, you go. I'm not going to that. I'm not. You can't make me do that. And so that really helped a great deal by me taking a stand and standing and letting him. If it was on him, then he was afraid to do it because he had been around saints too much.
Friends,
Mm.
our time is gone. I've got 6 questions in 3 seconds. Can't do it. Sister Kevin, I want you to come back if you can, please. I want to hear more about your husband. I want to hear about your son's healing from that hernia that you're mentioning. I want to get into that next week. So if you come back, it'd be a blessing. Friends, tonight, if you're listening and you've been hurt, consider coming back to Christ tonight. We're reaching out to you in love. We're here for you. And you can pray today, right now, to ask God to forgive you and help you. If you've been wounded, He is a healer and He's a helper. And tonight's your night. to regain what
Amen.
you've lost, or if you haven't got it, you can get it tonight. So we thank our listeners, again, our wonderful, those who called in, and our guests, Sister Cavin. Thank you for being here. Our director, Sister Janelle, and we'll see you on next week with Sister Cavin again, same time. Lord bless you. Thanks so much.